All right, so we got this color change thing going. I don't feel like it's enough to get to let the player know that we actually picked up a passenger, right? Like right now we hit him, but what does this mean? And we also need a tutorial and stuff, but that might be out of the scope of this game. So let's go ahead and create a script that essentially handles an icon or an image. So we got to right click in here, go to UI, and then just do a you can do this, you can build this piecemeal where you go to canvas here and then you right click and you go to UI and then you add a raw image or just an image, whatever. And then what we do is I'm going to go ahead and hit F to focus, and I'm just going to hit W, and I'm going to move this image to the right hand corner. And we could adjust the scale of this image, and this image is really just going to get replaced like with the image of, for example, this guy, right? So if I go over here, and it's going to just grab the image of the driver. So here's art cab. There's these guys, characters. If I grab beard guy and I drop him in here, you see how beard guy appears there? So let me hit R to scale him down, something like this. And I think they're all roughly the same size. So let's do pink, blue, dress girl. Yeah, so they're just going to appear in the corner. For now, I'm going to set this to none. And for the color, I wonder if I make this transparent. Is it going to make the image not appear? Yeah. Let's see. So maybe for the source image, I can have something generic. Let's see. That's from the other game. Let's just have a check mark there. And then we'll replace this check mark image. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new script. And let's just call this UI passenger display. And I'm going to, let's see. Let's go ahead and drag this inside of here. And let's take a look at how we can think about how we're going to do this. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a serialized field. And I want to make it a private variable of type image, right? Because what are we accessing here, right? So we want to make sure we're also getting, I think, UI elements, right? You know, I think it's just UI, and that'll give us access to everything. Yeah, UI here. Okay, and then for the image, I'm going to call this passenger image, and then I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate this line here, and then I'm going to name this one no passenger image. So once I get some art together, I'll upload it. But what I'm going to do is we'll have the no passenger image, which could be just the check mark from now, and then the passenger image is the actual passenger. Okay. Now inside of start, we want to start thinking about if we don't have this image, because there's these null reference exceptions that pop up. So if we don't have a passenger image, we're going to get an error, right? That this slot is empty. So what we can do is we can either set the image immediately to this, or we can let the people know who are working on our game that, hey, you need to make sure to insert an image. And this helps let them know, you know, like if they're getting any errors and stuff, like, oh, this debug.log popped up that this is missing an image. Okay. But also what we can do is let's create a method called set passenger image here. And I'm going to hit Control and period, and I'm going to go ahead and create a method called set passenger image. And you might be like wondering, well, how do I do this, right? Like, what is the what are we doing inside here? Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to pass in an image. So I'm just going to type in null for now. And what this does is this sets it to no passenger image initially. Actually, I don't know if I can do, yeah, I can do it this way. And what I'll do here is I'll have a sprite and we'll pass in a passenger sprite image. All right, so let me kind of clarify this a little bit. By setting this to null, right off the bat, we're just saying that right off the bat, there is no passenger image initially. And the reason I'm doing this is because when our taxi cab picks up a driver from this script here, when I bump into a person, I'm going to grab the image of the person. So of the, for example, like here's our town person here. See the beard guy? I want to grab this beard guy image. So whoever I bump into, I'm going to grab this beard guy image here, and I'm going to feed it into this UI passenger display script. And the way I'm going to do that is by calling this, and I'm going to pass that image into here. And then inside of here, I'm going to grab passenger sprite. Well, I'm going to first grab passenger image. I'm going to say, okay, passenger image dot sprite. And you might be like, wait, what's this dot sprite business? So let's do sprite, it's lowercase. Well, the sprite is this field here. It's the sprite field inside of the sprite renderer component. We have access to the this image here, and we're going to grab this bearded guy sprite image here, and then we're going to say equals passenger sprite here. And then what I want to do here is, let's say we want to, let's see. I'm wondering if I want to disable the image. Let's see. Yeah, let's do this. So I'm going to go passenger image. I'm going to dot enable it here equals true. And then what I'd like to do is I'm going to have an else statement in here that once I drop them off, see. You know what? Let's wrap this in an if statement. So I'm going to move these up here, and I'm going to hit Control and Enter. And what we'll do is we'll say, if the passenger sprite image is not equal to null. So let's take a look at this way. At the very start, we're checking if there's a passenger image. We're passing in nothing at first because we don't have one. We're going to call this method, and we'll review all of this in a second. We're going to say, okay, we're passing in the whatever image that we're getting from here into here. If it's not equal to null, which means it's not empty, we're going to set the passenger image.sprite image to the one that's being passed in, and we're going to enable it, which is true. Else, what we can do is, I'm just going to copy these two. I'm going to set them back. Say Control D. And I'm going to highlight both of these and just move them down here. I'm going to set this to no passenger image. I'm going to set this to false. Oh, no passenger. You might have to make a no passenger sprite here. We have to make it of type sprite so that it accesses the slot. So let's change this instead of image to sprite. And let's call this no passenger sprite. Yeah, I think that's a better way of doing it. So now we're accessing sprites here. So we have a no passenger sprite, which could be the check mark for now. And what we're saying is, if we don't have an image, let's set it back to our no passenger sprite, and let's disable the actual, see this passenger image here? We're going to disable that. So let's save this, and let's see, let's attach this to this image slot here. So I'm going to grab this UI passenger display, and I'm just going to drop it on this image here. And then actually, I guess we could just, yeah, let's have this placed on the highest level of the canvas. We'll put all of our UI display scripts up here. And we would normally have a manager that would manage all of these. We'll get into that later. So the passenger image here, I'm not really worried about it because we're going to use the default one. We're going to use whatever one we're going to grab. But for this one, we definitely need a default image. So what I can do is I'll use this drop-down image here, maybe. And then for our image here, we'll do, You know what? We need to have it on there. Unless I'm going to get the component. Let me remove this component for a second. And then... yeah, maybe we'll do it this way, and then we'll get this image component. You know what? Let's go ahead and just... I know this is an early tutorial, but let's go ahead and just do that. So I'm going to make an empty game object here. And I'm just going to call this UI Passenger Manager. And on this manager, it's going to manage all of our UI stuff that relates to this game. So I'm going to drag my UI Passenger display and drop it on here. Now we have a passenger image and a no passenger sprite, right? And we'll use this to essentially get access to the, these two images here. All right, so let's go to our taxicab pickup and let's edit this script so that we can get access to this UI passenger display. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this serialized field here just so I don't have to type this out. And I'm going to change this to UI passenger display. And I'm going to access UI passenger display here. Let's go ahead and save that. And then let's go to our taxicab script here. And let's drag in this UI passenger manager, which it'll work because it has this UI passenger display script on here. Now what I want to do in start is just check. I'm always kind of like doing these checks where I'm like, okay, if our UI passenger display is equal to null, that means it's missing that reference. We want to just tell them missing that we're missing the game object. Now here, down in onTriggerEnter is where we're going to, let me go ahead and delete this. I'm going to delete the instructions there. This is where we're going to make a new variable that's temporary, and I'm just going to call this passenger sprite. And I'm going to say that equals other.gameObject. And I think I'm missing a reference here. Let's see. Oh, we need to add the if you remember before, it was like Unity engine, I think .ui, and that'll give us access to the sprites, I believe. Let's see. Here, let's do this really quick. Let's get the component that's our sprite. Yeah, that's all. It was just, it needed a second to kind of kick in. So sprite passenger sprite equals other.gameObject.getComponent. And what are we trying, which component are we trying to get? Well, we're trying to get the sprite renderer, right? Which is this component here. So I'll just start typing that out. So now that we have access to this sprite renderer, right? I want to get the actual sprite image. So I can just do dot and then sprite. So what's happening here is whenever I collide with any object with the tag passenger and I don't have a passenger, this variable here is going to store whatever's inside of this sprite slot. And whatever's stored inside that sprite slot, which is the when I crash into or drive up to a bearded guy, it's going to grab this image and it's going to store it in here. Now what I need to do is I need to go into UI passenger display here inside of this script, and I need to access essentially our set passenger image method here. I need to pass that in here, and then I need to update all of this stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you remember, we have this passenger sprite here, right? And we also have this method here, which is accessing our UI passenger display messenger, which is this right here. So let's go ahead and put all of that together. So where's that at? Okay, here we go. So let's do UI passenger display dot, let's call that method set passenger. I think I need to set this to public. And that's why we can't find it. Let's try that again. Set passenger image. Now, what image do we want to pass in? Well, I want to pass in the image of the character that we just bumped into. And then, so now what will happen is every time I bump into a character, it's going to put this image in there. So let's go ahead and just see if this works, where I press play here. And if I bump into this guy, changes the color, but this doesn't work because we have this null reference exception. Just make sure to insert an image. So let's go ahead and change this and make sure that we have something in there like that check mark. Let's press play here. And let's drive into this guy. And let's see, taxi cab. And one other thing, sorry, I totally didn't notice this. This passenger image here is going, we need it, what we have this for is for the actual slot on our canvas. So what's going to happen now is this slot for our image is going to be the one that updates. So as we, like in our taxi cab here, when we go around and we're driving into things, we're actually updating. It says UI display set passenger image. Remember, we pass in the image of our character. If it's null, if it's not equal to null, we're going to set that to passenger image, which is here, the sprite. So let's go ahead and see that in action. So I drive up to this guy. You can see we've got our character here. We can't get her yet. I dropped him off, but the problem is I still have him up here. Well, that's an easy fix because if we go back in our taxi cab, we have this house party here, right? And when we get to our house party, we set it to false. So we're also going to go in here and we're just going to clear out this slot for our character. And an easy way to do this is I'm just going to copy this line. Is I'm going to say, okay, once I drop this off, I'm going to set this to null. Let's save that. And let's drop this guy off. So we go here, pick up this character, drop him off. Another thing we can do with this image is we can kind of style this up a little bit. We can right click and on our canvas here, we could add another image and see if there's anything. We'd have to make our own border, but we could do a background sprite here and let's kind of move it here. Also, I want to set this canvas to scale with screen size. And that way these always stay the same size as we move. You see that? So I'm going to move this image, which is passenger image, in front of this guy here. So let's move these around, and this will be background image. I'll just hit T to kind of scale this up. Let's move both of these over here. Now let's press play. We see our passenger here. Let's go drop him off. Pick up this girl, she appears there. Let's drop her off. I hope that was clear. We have a new script here, pretty basic, just kind of scroll through it. I would read through it. Another thing to do to really help you solidify this stuff in your mind. I know we got into a little bit advanced programming concept by this word null, and then setting things to null is just to clear it out. I would suggest go through, comment all of these lines of code before you forget. It just is more practice, scripting practice. But yeah, just like this, the key takeaways here, and then I'll kind of end this video, is we call this set passenger method here with the image that's being passed in, and then we clear it out when we don't have a house party anymore. And you can see that is done here. All right, I hope you enjoyed that lesson.